it's just phenomenal to watch the 4 players who I had regarded as the top 4 players coming into HPL also take the top 4 spots. You think about Hearthstone a lot of times and how luck is often involved in some of these games. These guys are showing you that in the long term, it's play skill that really matters.
The 2 that stood out the most, I think, just had to be Dog and Show. I mean, these guys had amazing records from the get-go, never let it up, and they almost never had a losing streak this entire season either. Finished really strong as well, and they finished as number 1 and 2 in the season. Really no surprise since they were there almost the entire season, every single day.
And then with guys like Purple and Zalay, we kind of saw the same thing happen. They had a little bit more rocky of a start, but after that, we saw their records absolutely go crazy. I mean, Zalay ended at 10-5, and it was largely doing the same thing every single time, abusing the power of Grim Patron. And with Purple, he was doing it by kind of getting inside your head and picking apart every single player. He was getting the better of every single opponent that he faced. Not on just playing one powerful deck over and over again, he was really showing you a different way to play the game. For players to be able to run away with seasons, one of the first things to account for there is experience. The more time that you have spent in front of a camera playing Hearthstone, the nerves aren't that big of a factor. You know what to do in the situations that you've been in before. These are all reasons why these people have such consistent seasons. Having the confidence to come in and play to your game and understand that while you may get countered, it's not going to happen every single time. That's part of what makes these players so successful. It's almost as if naivety is a big strength of theirs. The disregard for someone else to actually bring a strategy that performs extremely well against you and instead drive the action on your own terms.
And yeah, we saw the long season actually get to a few players. This long season, it can get to you. If you make one mistake, it's hard to forget about it for your next match sometimes. It can weigh on you. We saw some players miss some lethals because they had their turn planned out ahead of time. They knew what they were going to do next turn and then didn't account for the card they drew that turn, just quickly went through their turn. Take an extra 10 seconds, just go through the basics when you learned the game. And we saw some people not react probably in the best ways this season. We saw some people have a little bit of problems with dealing with that adversity. It's fine to let some stuff out every now and then. Yeah, you get unlucky, just get over it. But it's hard not to be affected. You're a human being. You have to find a way to fight through all of it.
Something that also was happening is just because you get a lead, it doesn't mean that this is the time where you can start to take it easy. So to see some players start out fantastic and then fall off as we move to the later stages of the season, I feel like a lot of that was seated in the fact that they weren't putting in the same kind of work as they were at the beginning. And that's something that you can never get away from regardless of what field you're in. If you're passionate about something and you want to do it professionally, you have to work harder as you go along through things.
I think you can focus on one team in particular for the comebacks. You have to focus on Hearthlytics. Jab, he springboarded from an 0-2 and then just took over at one point in time, having the most wins in the season and beating some of the top players at the peak of their power in this league. He was the first person to beat Dog, the first person to beat Nyria, real Kingslayer-esque, and then Muzzy. Possibly one of the best comeback stories we've ever seen in Hearthstone. He was 2-5 at one point. Here he is in the playoffs now.
And then you have guys like Kranich, who was a very streaky player throughout. And it all started with one of his match losses to show. He lost a very brutal game number 5. And that started the beginning of a 4-match losing streak for him. But then we saw him really change that aspect. He went from playing Kranich's game of wild cards into playing a very conventional style. And then when he hit the balance of these two things and was able to utilize the right tools at the right time, that's when Kranich started to take over all of his matches. Looking at the way his season came back, this is now the second time that he's accomplished a goal that he didn't believe was possible. And that first one, of course, was at the 2014 World Championships, where he beat Kalento in the top 8. He said he didn't believe he could do it. And now he said he didn't believe he could top 8 here. Maybe he doesn't believe that he can actually win this whole event. But I see what Kranich is capable of, and I see him very capable of winning.
What you have to do is you have to find it within yourself. You have to dig deep and find out what kind of person you really are and turn it around as quickly as possible. You can't just wallow in it and be like, oh, woe is me, I got really unlucky. Put it down to the brass tacks as easy as you can possibly do it and fix it that way. Oh, and oh yeah, armor up on turn 2, damn it.